The images stored in long-term memory help people excel at a variety of complicated tasks. When you read about Steve Jobs, you probably think of the iPhone's inventor holding an iPhone with a smiling face. When this happens, your brain sees the picture. This is called a mental representation. Mental representations are structures that are stored in the brain that correlate to particular objects, images, movements, or anything that brain might have processed and stored for later retrieval. In a broad sense, mental representations allow you to sidestep your short-term memory, an ability that can be quite useful. Short-term memory is great for certain things, like remembering the words you just read to understand the sentence, but to memorize an entire language, you need the power and capacity of your long-term memory. Simply put, without the ability to store all the rules of a language in your long-term memory, you will not be able to communicate with the ease that you do. Here is where mental representations come into play. These well-organized patterns of information stored in long-term memory allow you to respond quickly to the situation in which you find yourself. For example, these representations remind you that Steve Jobs was a famous businessman, which is why you do not need to constantly relearn the significance of his invention every time you come across a reference to it. Mental representations also play a role as a performance booster. We know it takes years of practice to become an expert in a field, whether driving a taxi or playing chess. Only through practice can you develop detailed representations of the situations or movements that matter to your performance. Let's consider the sport of baseball. Plenty of fans have a handful of mental representations stored away, but they're nothing compared to those of professional baseball players. Because all of the practicing they do, professional players have developed sophisticated representations of all the potential trajectories of a baseball. This means that when a batter receives a pitch, he can predict within a split second how fast it will approach, whether it's a curveball or slider, and know exactly how to swing his bat. In this way, practice really does make perfect, but not any type of practice will do. Next, you will learn which type of practicing is required to develop special skills.